Now, let us move on and talk to you about another situation in Kenya. Protesters have thrown rocks at police at the start of 3 days of demonstrations against the cost of living and tax hikes. Schools and businesses across several cities are closed as the country's main opposition leader, Raila Odinga, called for people to take to the streets. Kenya has suffered election-related conflict for decades, with the worst happening after a 2007 vote, when more than 1,000 people died. Well, let us live now and speak to Patrick Kotharo, who is a journalist and political analyst who joins me from Nairobi. And I think we have Patrick. Patrick, just update us on what the situation is in Kenya right now. Well, the protests are on. It's happening in many of the towns around the country. I
think if you go around the main centers, lots of them are deserted. There's a huge police presence that's kind of trying to stop protesters getting into the central business districts of these towns. So, yes, there's already been some clashes. A few people, I think, have been injured. I understand at least 2 or 3 have been shot. Some politicians have been arrested, some of the leaders of the protests. So it's still unfolding, I think, as we get into the afternoon. Traditionally, that's when it really kicks off. So we'll see what happens. Patrick, what is it that people are angry about? Give us a flavor of what life is like in Kenya now for so many people. Well, I mean, initially, to understand the protests themselves, were called by the losing candidate in last year's election to protest the election itself, but didn't he really garner much public support? But they have now morphed more into a protest about the cost of living, and the government's perceived deafness to people's appeals to do something about it, to bring it down. So a few weeks ago, we had the government produce its budget and really sought to raise taxes, to double taxes on fuel, which would put up the price of everything. And I think that's really what's energized people to join this protest. And we haven't seen Raila Odinga, the losing opposition candidate, essentially drop his demands for a review of the election, and make this all about the cost of living.